We start here. The pick is in for the Democrats, as you probably know. Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. Stand up and take a bow. You have been selected by whatever cabal runs the country these days and hopes to continue running it under a President Kamala Harris. So why did they pick Walz? Hard to say, but it's an odd choice, and whoever picked him, well, it wasn't Kamala, obviously. Well, perhaps they know he will be easy to control like she is, who just craves power, doesn't care about the cost to the Americans, because it is clear these people don't want to help regular Americans at all. If they did, they'd actually be, trying to help regular Americans, but they aren't. And perhaps that's the point, because the policies that Walsh has endorsed as the governor of Minnesota have certainly not been to the benefit of America or Americans, like proudly endorsing open borders where he does here.
And I think seeing a plan that's out there, talking about it with folks, knowing that he's not going to do anything. He talks about this wall. I always say, let me know how high it is. If it's 25 feet, then I'll invest in the 30-foot ladder factory. That's not how you stop this.
Yeah, now, if those terrible, deplorable America First people want to build a wall, we should build ladders to help the illegals get over it and come into the country. What is that about? Honestly, it's such a tone-deaf and incoherent policy position to advocate for open borders. You'd only do it if you wanted to destroy the country. Well, if the shoe fits. But what's really strange is how much Americans have been rejecting the open border for years now. They want it fixed. They don't want ladders. They want walls. But that's just the beginning, because that isn't the only strange thing Walz has done to advocate for illegals. Here's more.
It's done.
A packed room at the St. Paul Armory erupted after the governor's signature made driver's license for all the law of the land.
Yay! Isn't that great? Illegals in Minnesota get driver's licenses. They get to chant in Spanish as they get them, even though a lot of illegals coming in these days don't speak Spanish, you may have heard. And you guys know what you can do with those driver's licenses? Well, you likely can vote. How convenient is that? And he is for sanctuary policies, obviously. Here, listen.
Should Minnesota be a sanctuary state?
If the definition of that is that the federal government enforces immigration law and local law enforcement enforces local law, then yes.
Should cities be allowed to be sanctuary cities?
Yes, local control.
So perhaps that's the real reason those in charge want Walz as Harris's VP. They also clearly wanted a white guy because I guess they thought two people of color on the ticket would be too much for Americans to handle. And when it comes to another white man that was possibly up for the pick, Pennsylvania Governor Josh Shapiro, maybe he was passed over because of his faith. In fact, it's pretty likely. You see, Shapiro's Jewish and has expressed pro-Israel thoughts in the past, even though those thoughts were some time ago. He's also part of the Israeli army, and the leftist media still dredge them up, letting Kamala and her handlers know that you don't want to pick this guy. He's at least too Jewish. And that's because the left doesn't like Western civilization. They'd rather side with anybody who wants to end it. And that's why they decide to throw their lot in with the Palestinian cause. That's why they let scores of illegal aliens completely unvetted into the United States. They don't want the United States to be what it is any longer. But back to Shapiro's Jewishness. I'm sure the Harris campaign did not want scenes like this playing over and over of Beirut getting bombed by Israel and the anti-Semites on the left calling for the destruction of Israel because of it, all while having a Jewish VP out on the campaign trail. They just can't afford to lose the anti-Semite vote. And they thought it might cost them Michigan and Minnesota too, but wait. The image you're seeing right here isn't Beirut, my mistake. It's Minnesota. After the BLM riots of 2020, which Tim Walz let burn with no consequences. See, we brought it around full circle for you. And for Kamala Harris, this about sums up her view on things. Listen.
We have to stay woke. Like, everybody needs to be woke. And you can talk about if you're the wokest or woker, but just stay more woke than less woke. Yeah.
Yeah, that person could have the nuclear football. Oof. You see why I say now she's easily controlled, that her most substantial policy position, and we've seen where staying woke gets us. So with that in mind, let's talk about all the terrible policies that have led us to a place where the economy is in many regards teetering on the edge of a crash. It will make Monday's action on global markets seem like child's play. Let's turn to the number one issue facing voters right now. That, of course, is the economy. Warren Buffett has been moving billions of dollars into cash for several months now. He knew this was coming. He's preparing for it. And he's among those that believe what we're seeing is just the beginning of real economic upheaval in America and globally. Don't let the market downturn distract you from other several big facts that have led us to this point. Inflation has been at or above 3% for 39 straight months and counting. A record number of Americans are working multiple jobs and still struggling to survive because of the high cost of living. They're just trying to make ends meet. Fully 9% of credit cards today and the balances are delinquent. That happened in the last year. That's right. Almost 1 in 10 credit cards are delinquent as we sit here today. The housing market, its affordability near record lows. Mortgage demand is at its lowest level in 30 years. The average mortgage, by the way, has gone through the roof. It's now $3,600 a month. Yeah, that's the average. Renters are now paying an average of $1,800 a month. And yes, that's also the average. The U.S. dollar has lost 25% of its purchasing power just since Joe Biden and Kamala Harris got into office. This is not, my friends, a soft landing. We're in for a financial reckoning, the likes of which we have not seen in a very long time. I believe it could make 2008 and 2009 look like a walk in the park by comparison. And every single bit of this has a name, Bidenomics. But now we can call it, well, something new, Kamalanomics. Try that on for size, Kamalanomics, let it ring through. And while retirements are being eaten up by inflation and young people can't afford to buy a house and maybe never will, Kamala, well, she's been singing the praises of all the failed policies put into place with her riding shotgun. Listen to this.
Bidenomics is working.
We're doing great. It's wonderful. The stock market is surging.
We have never been down 1,000 points ever, not even intraday on the NASDAQ.
Is that true?
That is true.
Okay. Down 6% right from the get-go. This is heavy big tech. Here we go. Look at them go down.
Dow Jones is down about 1,010 points. It's about 2.5%. We've been watching this all morning. The plummet is fueling fears of recession amid a global market meltdown.
Yeah, her comprehensive plan included her tie-breaking votes on several pieces of key legislation as the sitting vice president. She's also heavily involved with other big pieces of legislation like the Inflation Reduction Act. And yet, as I just outlined, inflation has remained at or above 3% for 39 months. The cost of groceries and gas and the monthly power bill have all gone up. But she says she's ready to take control of the American economy. Yep, she's ready. And I want you to hear it point by point so you have confidence that Kamala is not just some empty vessel, but someone who has a clear understanding and vision of economics and how to get America back on track. She totally understands it and isn't just some stand-in for other people running the country. Just watch her show you. Here it is.
Prices have gone up. And families and individuals are dealing with the realities of that bread costs more, that gas costs more. And we have to understand what that means. That's about the cost of living going up. That's about having to stress and stretch limited resources. That's about a source of stress for families that is not only economic, but is on a daily level, something that is a heavy weight to carry. So it is something that we take very seriously, very seriously. And we know from the history of this issue in the United States that when you see these prices go up, it has a direct impact on the quality of life for all people in our country. So it's a big issue, and we take it seriously. And it is a priority, therefore.
Oh, it's a priority. It's a big issue. Things are expensive. We know things are expensive. Things are expensive because people spend a lot of money. People spend a lot of money because things are expensive. Really? This is vapid nonsense. Vacuous garbage. You know what she sounds like? Honestly, just like this. Here's more.
Recent polls have shown a fifth of Americans can't locate the U.S. on a world map. Why do you think this is?
I personally believe that U.S. Americans are unable to do so
because some people out there in our nation don't have maps, and I believe that our education, like such as in South Africa and the Iraq, everywhere like such as, and I believe that they should, our education over here in the U.S. should help the U.S. or should help South Africa and should help the Iraq and the Asian countries.
Maybe she should have been the running mate. I mean, 2 peas in a pod there. Why not? It is truly frightening. I mean, this person has not one clue about what she's doing. And I'm not talking about the beauty pageant woman. Or about what she should do about the economy or anything else for that matter. No, if elected, God help us, she will rely on the same monetary geniuses that brought us the mess we're in right now. They will demand more money is printed and more taxes are raised. That means drilling you. And more people are given government checks, including illegals. More people are going to be buying into the bizarre idea that you will own nothing and you will be happy. The strange new age socialist idea being pushed upon us by the World Economic Forum and the puppet masters that gather in places like Davos every year. And don't forget that wealthy and successful people, by definition, are evil. Just, and should be punished for doing themselves well or doing well for others. It should be stopped. It really is quite something to witness, isn't it? The same people that can watch Keynesian economics fail over and over again and still cling to the idea that somehow if we just continue to print money and spend it all, it will heal itself miraculously this time around. It is the definition of insanity and all part of the Democrat cult that is brainwashing tens of millions of Americans. I mean, the economy doesn't actually matter. You know what really matters is someone's gender and race. Whether or not they have a skill set to navigate these dangerous times is completely irrelevant. Haven't you heard? But honestly, that's a lie the Democrats tell their supporters. It's about power. And the people in charge don't want you to have it. That's clear more than ever before. And here is today's big takeaway. Let me put a bow on this for you. Governor Tim Walz is so far left it will alienate moderate Democrats and independents alike. By any measure I can find, it was a terrible choice by Kamala Harris as her VP. But then again, I'm probably just weird. It's what they said.